beautiful anthem this morning. Our scripture reading today comes from Paul's letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. And Paul writes, "Finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me. And the God of peace will be with you." And God add his blessing to the reading of his word. Have you ever been accused of having a bad attitude? Yeah, maybe. Some of us may have been accused at one time or another of having a bad attitude. It may be written on some long-forgotten report card that's up in your attic somewhere, or maybe it's something that a boss once said to you, or a coach, or even a loved one, telling you that you have a bad attitude, maybe offering to give you an attitude adjustment. It's always a little scary to hear somebody offering that particular service. Well, it is a frustrating criticism to hear. It's frustrating because we hear today how important attitude is. A good attitude. You have to keep a good attitude all the time. The secret to success, the self-help books will tell us, the first secret is your attitude. Keep it good. Keep it positive. That is what you need. We know it's important. We hear that it's important to have a good attitude, and we believe, we know in our hearts, our attitude does affect the days that we live, the kind of life that we live. A lot of it actually starts with our attitude. But it's also a frustrating criticism to hear because it's so vague. Somebody says to you, you've got a bad attitude. But they're not telling you anything that you can use. What specifically is my problem? What specifically am I doing wrong? Your attitude, it's hard to define. It's subjective from person to person, whether that's a good attitude or a bad attitude. But what is it anyway? What is our attitude? Well, our attitude is our settled way of thinking about someone or something that we show in our behavior. That's our attitude. Our settled way of thinking about someone or something that we show in our behavior. In other words, it's a part of our inner selves that we let out into the world. We show to those around us. That is our attitude. And so we come to our work with a certain attitude. And sometimes that attitude is positive and enthusiastic, and sometimes that attitude is rather negative. Tired of our work, bored with our work. And we know that the attitude that we approach our work with will have an effect on the kind of work we do, and also what kind of time we're going to have as we do it. The same is true of family. Think of our great families, cousins, aunts, uncles. What is our attitude toward our family? So often today that we hear the common attitude on television among characters there is, "Oh, my family. Oh, I hate to see my family. My family's so annoying." And boy, if that's your attitude about your family, then you can be sure when you encounter them, that's the experience you will have. Our attitude toward our work, our attitude toward our family, our attitude toward life. When we wake up in the morning, what is our attitude about the day ahead? Is our attitude, "Oh, my best years are behind me. Now I'm just marking time." Or is my attitude, "This is the day the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it"? All of that important. All of it important because, yes, we know our attitude has an effect on the days that we live. And yet it's so hard simply to define our attitude or simply to say you have to have a good attitude. Boy, that would be an easy sermon to preach. I could just get up here and say, don't ever have a bad attitude. Always have a good attitude. And that's it. That's all you need to know. But we know that's not true. We know that we are a mixture of good attitudes and bad attitudes, and they're all in there with us, good about this, bad about that. We see it in the Bible. We see it certainly in the Apostle Paul. Boy, talk about a guy, the Apostle Paul, who had a positive attitude about his job, about his work that he was given. He loved his job. He sure seemed to. He was so energetic about it. He was going from place to place. He was being thrown in prison and beaten, and he kept going, kept spreading the word, and finding success because of this attitude he had toward the church. And it was good, and it was positive. And yet it was so good that when he would travel with others, with his friends, so often they wouldn't measure up. And so that partnership would break up because their attitude didn't match his. He left them by the wayside, or he felt that they betrayed him. See, Paul had a great attitude toward the church, toward his work, very positive. But it affected and kind of caused him. Maybe, I'm sure actually, those who worked with Paul, many of them would say, boy, that guy had a bad attitude. I'm glad I'm not with him anymore. I'm glad I'm not on my own. Good attitudes and bad attitudes mixed together. And sometimes that's really what makes us who we are. It's not as straightforward as saying your attitude should always be good all the time. And one reason we know that is because there are things as Christian folk we're supposed to have a bad attitude about. We're supposed to have a bad attitude about pride, about selfishness, about prejudice, about injustice. Boy, if we just go through life having a positive attitude about everything we encounter, about every news story we hear, about every aspect of our community, we're not following Christ then. We're not being disciples. There are things we need to have a bad attitude about because there were things that Christ had a bad attitude about. As he went through this world, as he saw injustice, as he saw hypocrisy, he let his bad attitude show. Now, good and bad. We cannot simply say we should all have a good attitude all the time. So what can we say? What are we supposed to do with our attitude? What should our attitude be? Well, instead of talking about good attitude and bad attitude, let's talk about having a Christian attitude. All right, what does that mean? We are followers of Christ. We want to have an attitude, our inner beliefs, what we believe about something, our fixed beliefs about something or someone, and then the way we show that to the world, that's our attitude. We want that to be a Christian attitude. So what is a Christian attitude? What are the marks of it? Well, first, it is faithful. A Christian attitude is a faithful attitude. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, our choir sang for us beautifully today. Speaking of God, singing of God, great is thy faithfulness. God is faithful to us. No matter how we have failed, no matter how we have fallen down through the centuries, God has remained faithful. And so, whether our attitude needs to reflect a faithfulness as well. So one thing that we are going to do in our attitude is try to have an attitude that's like God. Or, to make it easier for us, to make it more relatable, to have an attitude like Christ. Our attitude about certain things are going to match, in as much as is possible, Christ's attitude toward those things. So we are going to have an angry attitude when we see somebody treated unfairly. When we see somebody treated in a prejudiced way, that's going to make us angry. We're going to have a bad attitude about that because that's the kind of attitude Christ had. And we're going to have a bad attitude about selfishness and other things, but we're going to have a great attitude, a positive attitude, even when it's hard, about things like family, things like community, things like helping those in need. All these things, none of those things are easy. It's not always easy to have a positive attitude about them, but we are going to try our best. We are going to have a faithful attitude, a Christian attitude, because we're going to be faithful to Christ's attitude toward this world and toward the things he saw in this world. But let me touch on another thing. That's pretty, there we go. That's an easy one to remember. Well, be like Christ, right? Just be like you. What would Jesus do, basically? But there's another aspect to having a faithful attitude, and that is having an honest attitude. Again, your attitude is your settled beliefs about someone or something, and then how you show them to the world. But so often, what we show to the world doesn't match our beliefs. We have a false attitude. A false attitude toward the world. A false attitude in our lives. We may see something that goes against our beliefs, but we're just going to pretend to ignore it. We're not going to say anything. We're just going to smile and go on and pretend we have a good attitude about it. Pretend we're positive about it. No, a Christian attitude is faithful in that it is honest. What we feel in our hearts, what we believe in our faith, and as we have read about, as we have studied, as we've prayed to God, these things we are going to reflect in our actions. Boy, that is a valuable thing. It is a rare commodity in this world for someone's actions to absolutely reflect their beliefs. It's something I value in friends. And more so than ever, it used to be that the friends I would seek out, the ones I would spend the most time with, were the ones that were just most consistently fun. You know, they're going to have a good time. No matter what's going on in their hearts and their lives, they're just going to put a mask on it all. They're going to have a good time all the time. And that's what I valued in friendship. And now as I grow older, how important it is to have friends who will let you know what's going on in their hearts, who will tell you what's going on in their families and in their lives. Even when it's difficult, even when it's hard, even when it messes up some plans that you have made, because now you're sitting down and talking about some problem that's existing in their lives. But that's real friendship. That's deep friendship. When our attitudes, when our actions match what's in our hearts. One thing this does, and one thing it results in our lives, is if we're willing to say what's in our hearts, then we start becoming the ones who are stirring things up a little bit. And that's what honesty, that's what having an honest attitude is, a Christian honest attitude, is a willingness to stir things up. When we see somebody who needs to be held accountable, we hold them accountable. We don't just pretend we didn't see. We are going to be honest. And again, in doing that, we are going to be following Christ. Christian attitude is honesty. Willingness to say, not everything is great, not everything is perfect. We need to work on this and this and this. We need to be willing to hold each other accountable. It's interesting that when you start having a real Christian attitude, an honest attitude about what's going on around you, about being willing to point out some sin that exists, something is wrong, somebody that's not treating another person the way they should. You start expressing these beliefs, you start being willing to be honest about them and open about them and maybe stir things up a little bit. It's interesting when you have that kind of Christian attitude, that's right when people are going to start accusing you of having a bad attitude. In this world, that is a bad attitude. Now let's just gloss things over. Let's not say what's in our hearts. Let's not say what's troubling us. Let's just forget about it for now. Well, a Christian attitude is an honest attitude. Quakers had an expression about this. And the importance of this in the Christian faith is the importance of speaking truth to power. It's not scary to do. You confront a powerful force and speak the truth to it. And that's what this is here. Attitude, Christian attitude, willingness to be honest. But again, watch out. Because right when you do this, that's when people are going to start accusing you of having a bad attitude. Well, that would be easy too. If that's all there was to it, well, let's just be honest all the time. That's what it is. That's what a Christian attitude is. Absolute, be stuck in an absolute there. That would be easy sort of to preach too. But no, that's not enough. It's not enough just to go around and be honest all the time. Christian attitude isn't just about being faithful or honest. It's also about being loving. And that's an important part of Christian attitude too, is to have a loving attitude toward others. You see, that tempers our honesty. I wouldn't get far here, or no minister would get far in their congregation if that minister said what was on his or her mind all the time, every day. No, we don't say what's on our mind all the time because we temper it with love and care and concern. We say things in a way that don't bring hurt to other people. We temper our honesty with love. There are some out there that would justify such unloving statements that they spew out into the world by saying, well, I'm just being honest. I pride myself in my honesty. Well, that no unloving statement, no bitter statement can be justified by saying you're simply being honest, because we are called to be loving as well. So there we go. Balance together. Two important parts of our heart. How to have a Christian attitude. It needs to be faithful. It needs to be honest. And it needs to be loving. Those two alloys tempered together make such a strong, strong force in this world and in our lives. And what a bright light that is to show the world. There's one more element we can add as well. As we're thinking about our attitude that we bring out into this world, our beliefs that we're showing in this world, they should always be not only honest and faithful and loving, they should always be hopeful. I think that's one place where we really it's easy to fall short in our attitude, is we can have attitudes that are so unhopeful about the future. And yet, as we bring things of concern to light, as we talk about them in a loving and honest way, we should also have the hope that, yes, this is a bad thing, but we can do something about it. We may not be able to solve the problem, but we're going to put our shoulder against the wheel nonetheless. We're going to do what we can to make a difference in this world. Never, never are we going to be without hope. Our attitudes, hopeful attitudes. Now, even when it's something we know we cannot fix, even when it's something really there's nothing for us to do, we can still be hopeful and that we can know we can put that in God's hands. We may not be able to fix it. We may not be able to do anything about it, but God can. And God will. Because as Christians, we believe that God is moving us toward a fulfillment that now is a mystery to us, but will soon, or someday, become clear. God is working toward that ultimate fulfillment in this world. So it is possible for us to be hopeful, even in the midst of the most dire and desperate circumstances, to have that hopeful part of our attitude as well. But what makes a Christian attitude? Christian attitude, sometimes it is good, sometimes it is bad, depending on what we are talking about, but it is always faithful. It is always hopeful. And it always has love. As we think about what we are going to bring to this world in this week ahead, what about ourselves? Are we going to let loose out into the world and let the world see through our attitude? Let us make sure that all of it, each and every element, is something that reflects our faith, our hope, and our love. Let us bow and pray. Loving God, we do give thanks that you have given to us in such abundance. Lord, we know that we are called in to give back to this world. We know that our attitude that we bring to each and every day is something we bring into this world, something we give to it. And help us to make our attitudes in the days ahead reflect our love for you and our commitment to your kingdom. It is in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. Friends, if you